Shabbat Shalom. New book. The book of Shemot. In English, the book of Exodus. Why? In Hebrew, the book of Shemot, the book of names, and in English, the book of Exodus, of leaving Egypt. It's a great name. Don't get me wrong. Very famous. Makes sense. A lot of the book is about the Exodus, but why the change? Why not names? Or let's say, why names in Hebrew? As we read the beginning of the portion, we're going to read about the people that left Canaan and came to Israel. As we begin to read the story, we're going to read about the people that came to Egypt. 70 members of the family moved to Egypt to establish this new way of life. Rashi says that we read this part of reading the names, but a couple of weeks ago, we read about the names that gonna come from Egypt. Why do we need to repeat? And he gives us a quote that says, just like God gives names to the stars, he gives name to this people. Just like God counts the stars of the sky, he counts his people. You understand? Because the stars have name and you count them, so we also need to be counted and have names? It's a bit weird, no? When did we last talked about the connection between the people of Israel and stars? It was in Genesis 15. God calls Abraham and says, look to the sky, you see all the stars, can you count them? You can't. These are going to be your children. You're going to have so many children, just like the stars in the sky. We just read about how God himself is counting. So wait, can you count the stars or you can count the stars? Obviously, the question is, who is the one who counts? People cannot count. God can count. God counts every star, and God counts every person. You know, when you're in a crowd, when you're in a class, when you're in a setting, there's many people, the strongest thing you can have, the feeling is that somebody calls you in your name. Hey, John. Hey, Jenny. This is a personal connection. He counts me. He sees me. He connects with me. That's exactly seeing every individual. It's exactly what God is doing in this weekly portion. You see, for so many years, the people of Israel are slaves in Egypt and they feel abandoned. When you try to talk to them, they tell you God has forsaken us. God has abandoned us. So this is why in the burning bush, the first thing God asks Moses is not, are you coming? Or do you want to help? Is, I saw the people's suffering. I know what they went through. I know their names. I know them by their faces. I know each and every family. I understand what they went through. That also explains a strong message in this portion. Moses received 3 signs to show the people of Israel and to show the king Pharaoh about how God sends him. The snake and the staff, the hand becoming with boils, and the water into blood. Number 1 and number 2 are originals. We will see them once and they're going to be amazing. But number 3 is something that is familiar, right? Because in a week from now, we're going to read about how when the plague starts, there's going to be a plague of blood. And the water are going to become blood. What happened? There's no more originals ways to prove God's power. Taking water, happening, making it into blood. The explanation is, of course, water into blood was the strongest symbol of realizing to the people, I am with you. If you need to go back and understand what was the most horrible moment in all of the plagues, in all of the bad things that happened during our slavery, you can almost say for certain that was this time in this week when they threw the babies into the Nile. When you had a baby and they were throwing it into the Nile to save them or to kill them. The Egyptians are doing it, and the people of Israel are doing it. But that's the horrible moment when people throw their babies. Last night, a police officer, an Egyptian, came, threw your baby into the Nile, and the next day, you go to the same spot, nothing changes. There's not going to be a red mark. The water is so strong, you won't see anything different in the water. Interesting that the word denial sounds like a denial, because you go there, you go to the spot where this happened yesterday, and you can't believe it, but there's no sign of the horrible things that happened. You know what happened in the sign of water becoming blood? The truth is that every family there saw the water blood all the time. When Moses comes and takes the water and makes it into blood, he says, in other words, I know what you went through. I saw the water becoming blood. The denial of the Nile is not going to happen again. I know what you went through. I'm here with you. I know your name. I know your suffering. I am part of it. As God comes and returns to the picture and is going to re-embark in the journey of the Exodus, we need to recognize that God knows your name. He knows each and every one of you. He didn't forsake you. He was here waiting for the moment, for the time, and He's going to take you out. By your name, by your family, by the understanding of the suffering you went through, by showing everybody, I know what happened to you, people of Israel. Everybody's going to see now water of blood. The denial stops now. We know what you did, Egyptians. And this is the end of it. Exodus is on. Shabbat. Shalom.